it's Rhea. Wherever you are, and whatever time it is, I hope you are enjoying yourself. So today is a bit different than what I normally do. I mean, you can probably already tell with the fact that I'm like going out of my way to film cinematics about me making tea and lighting candles, but I guess I'm just trying to set the mood. It's a little bit more of like a raw feeling this time. It's not that different because I'm still going to be doing art, but this video is quite long and it's very much laid back and simple. Well, maybe instead of simple, I would say it's a little bit more like gentle, intimate maybe. But yeah, I'll likely be chatting this whole time as well, so feel free to put me on as like background noise or like a co-working session where we make art together, or I just simply yap while you do your chores or homework or something. I will say topic-wise, this isn't going to be about how to perfectly paint the sky and clouds. I'll mention process stuff here and there, but you might have guessed by the title, I'll mostly be talking a bit more about like life and where things are at, where I'm at, how things are going. And I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, no pun intended with the footage right now, but yeah, and I didn't really expect on doing this either. It's kind of just an idea I had. So by all means, feel free to skip this week or check out other videos where I'm super high energy and silly and talking in depth about art stuff. I think next week I should drop like another fun meme type video, but for now, it is in time. Get your snacks, cup of tea, whatever you need. This is kind of like a heart-to-heart vibe at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. when you're just really thinking about life. And I'm painting the sky, which personally I've wanted to do this for so long. It's not often that I paint. In fact, what you're seeing right now is me taking off the tape of a little like test run that I did before starting officially and filming it. So talking about the process and starting with the supplies and all of that, right now I'm just putting down the washi tape to create those like really nice clean lines after I'm done, like you just saw me pull off. And then I have two small little water jars, and then my acrylic paint, which is what I'll be painting with. There's like the liquitex, and then some of them is Grumbacher. That's how you say it, right? Unless it's like Grumbacher, but that doesn't sound right. Anyways, I have photos that I'm referencing that I took of the sky. I just uploaded them to my personal Discord, and so I just kind of will show what type of photo I'm referencing before I start to paint it. So you can see the first one that I'm starting with is just a typical blue sky. And yeah, I pretty much get into it. You can kind of tell what my setup is with the paintbrushes to the right of me and then my palette to the left of me. I didn't feel the need to like show all of that in depth because I'd rather show like the specific area that I'm painting as opposed to like, oh, these are the colors that I'm mixing and like I'm dipping my paintbrush into the water. But on terms of filming or like how you guys are going to see it, this first painting of this blue sky is going to be like all real time, just kind of cutting out parts that are relevant, like I said, dipping my paintbrush into the water, like mixing a color for a second. So yes, and then I think the next two are going to be slightly sped up, and then the last one should be real time again. And I only sped up the other two, and it's not like a ton either compared to like how I normally speed things up. I just wanted to do that because I didn't want this video to be like 2 hours long. So that's another thing. It's funny that I said that this type of video, like it's giving like 3 a.m. vibes, because the time that I did this was around 3 a.m. Like I started at 3 a.m. and I'm pretty sure I ended around like 6 in the morning or 7. And it was so funny because I was like, why are there other people awake in my house right now? Like, why is my family like moving around and stuff? Like, can everyone leave? When it comes to sleep schedules, I tend to be on the more like criminally insane side because I just kind of do whatever. But in general, I feel like I'm definitely more of a night person. Like, I'll do early morning, but not midday. Midday is just an awful time for me, but nighttime is where I thrive the best. And I also think this, like, putting together this video was whenever I, like, or it's basically what triggered my sleep schedule to, like, get completely out of whack, because I think I filmed this a couple days before my birthday, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to hurry up, I have to finish this, and blah 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 blah, and yet here I am, it doesn't come out until, like, what, almost a month later? Literally a month later, actually, yeah, I'm doing this voiceover, like, a month from when I did this. That's kind of funny. But yeah, I was just up casually painting at like 3 in the morning for like several hours, and then I was like, you know what? Ah, yes, nothing like the good morning daylight after I've stayed up literally all night. And then I went to bed at probably like 7, 8. I think I went to bed at 8. I don't know. But overall, though, I did have a good time putting this together. Like, I was very much in my element or at ease. And that's mostly in the sense that I was painting something that I really adored. And I was also doing this at a time where things felt quieter and I just felt like I could breathe. That's how I see the nighttime, and especially like 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. It just feels like that time is reserved for me and me only. I was not so much chill in the fact that I wasn't overthinking how this was coming out, because I definitely was at some moments. Like I said, painting isn't something that I do very often. It's something that I enjoy, but I'm just so used to like other forms of art, if that makes sense. And acrylic painting I certainly hadn't done in a while. I think in high school I took painting 1 my sophomore year, and then I took painting 2 in my senior year. I don't really remember much from that time, and I don't really think my art teacher was that profound. I think they were kind of just like there, I guess. And there wasn't any like magical breakthrough type moments. I just knew that I enjoyed painting like I would expect to, because I've always enjoyed art, but nothing really special happened there, and I just kind of went on. But that said, painting itself is very enjoyable and lovely, and I would like to reconnect to it whenever I have the chance. But all that to say, because I'm so inexperienced with it, it's just kind of funny to see myself like flail around mentally while I like try to put something together. It's very much trial and error, and I'm learning that painting and just kind of like the art making process in general, like with illustrations too, you kind of go through these phases where you're like, oh gosh, this is horrible, and then it's like, oh wait, never mind, it's kind of decent. Then you go back to like, oh my god, it's over, everything's all over, this is the worst thing I've ever done, I hate everything. And then you go back and you're like, wait a second, I'm kind of cooking right now, let's go, let's keep going. So yeah, it's like this whole experience, and it's kind of funny because like I feel like in a way that's very similar to how life feels like to me. But before I get into that, to solidify this whole painting process talk, you can see my motions on the screen this whole time, and since a lot of it is real time, you can see exactly how I got to where I did. But essentially the formula that I do for all of these is like I create a gradient background first, and then I start adding in the areas of the clouds and kind of trying to shape them in like really interesting ways, similar to like in real life. I mean, I'm literally just going off of like whatever I see, I'm just trying to like mimic that by, you know, different techniques with the brush. And it's kind of intuition, so it's hard for me to really like explain why I'm doing it like that, but I can say that I am also like building on the clouds by blending different colors and establishing depth by using different values. So there's that, and really and truly, like, there's tutorials and all kinds of stuff out there, but the easiest way to understand it, at least for me, was to just dive in and go for it myself. So you might be the same, because there's a lot that you can learn that way. Again, there's like a whole trial and error experience that teaches kind of the best way. And with acrylic paint, out of all of them, it's quite the friendliest maybe. At least I feel like it might be the most beginner, and that's probably why that's the one that I'm used to, because that's what I took in my painting classes from high school. But you can just paint right over stuff, even if it doesn't work out. No matter how many times you mess up, you can paint over it. It's fine because you can paint over it, and that is just so healing. You can always start over again. Again, just like real life if you need to. But painting in general is wild because you have to see things from a completely different perspective, where it's not just like, oh, this is a shadow and this is light, but more like, what color are these shadows and what shape is this light and all of that. And I kind of freaked out because I paint what I think I'm seeing in the process, and then I was like, oh, my colors are kind of random and unnecessary because they don't look like the photo that I'm looking at. But in my opinion, like looking back at that, I feel like that's what adds life to a painting. Like I was like, oh my gosh, the clouds have like yellow and green and blue in them. That's so weird. That's not what I wanted. No, I just wanted it to be like white and gray. But I don't know. I feel like it'd be cool to paint things exactly as the photo looks, right? Like people that can do that are amazing. I usually see that with oil paints, by the way. But anyways. I feel like realistically, what's the point of that? Because, I don't know, I just think it's even cooler to be able to see how the painter interprets a scene in their own style. And I think it's because that interpretation can lead to so many different choices. You know, there's like different colors that they can choose, a different composition slightly. A reoccurring theme in art and painting especially is like an artist being able to communicate through their paintings, like through their brushwork, through the way that they set things up. And I feel like that is very much true. You know, there's like different stories that you can see, different emotions that you can see in people's artwork, and yeah, that's just something really special. But let me stop sounding really theatrical and extra, because I don't know everything about painting, so yeah. But we're already 10 minutes in, so I just want to say first off, I hope you guys are well, doing well. It is now September, and I can't believe that, like, I don't know, time just doesn't really feel real anymore. I know I'm just starting off with already a really intense concept. But like, yeah, no, this year has gone by so freaking fast already, and it's kind of scary, to be honest. I feel like ever since the pandemic, time has just felt like this unending roller coaster, and things happen in the blink of an eye, and I'm supposed to just kind of like move on from it or like keep going with the flow, and I'm just like, this is crazy. Like, genuinely, does anyone know what's going on? Like, I might be going insane, but it's fine. While some videos I do want to keep to a more strict script, this one is, I just kind of have like bullet points ready, and I'm just kind of gonna wing it a little bit off of that. I've wanted to try that more a little bit, where I just have like the general consensus of what I want to say and then just kind of like wing it, because then you get the best of both worlds that way. But as my platform is something that's primarily centered around art, and that's kind of what my existence is primarily centered around, at least in my brain, I guess it'd only be proper to talk about how art has been going for me and things like that. Well, good news is I actually just finished my first illustration in a long time. Like, I'm being dramatic, honestly, like, because I did do like the draw this in your style challenges, and I felt like, oh, okay, these are actual illustrations, but those are obviously just like prompts for somebody else, which it still is cool to do, but like, I'm such a like the best way I can put it is there's parts of being a Leo that are so spot on for me, and I feel like this is one of those things where it's like, doing something original feels like such a flex. Like, it goes hand in hand with being like a whole control freak type person, where it's like, oh, I want to say that I did this, I thought of that, me. I'm so conceited. No, I finished my first illustration where I came up with a concept by myself, and from start to finish I was just going for it and figuring things out, very much kind of like how I used to do, except I never really like pushed myself to finish things. It was always just like concept sketches of things. And actually, the illustration is kind of like the final product of that one sketchbook page that I did in my latest sketchbook tour, which was probably at the beginning of this year, at the end of last year. I did this page of like this character, this girl, crying in space with like these zero gravity tears, and I remember saying like, oh, I need to turn this into like an actual print. Someone tell me to do that, and voila, I have done it. And I don't know, I'm like nervous about sharing it places, or like I don't know if I should share it at all or whatever. I think just in general, the fact that I finished creating it, and just the whole process of working on illustrations, like I said, it's very new to me because I don't do it often, but it's very special and it's very precious. Also, just the time working on it, it feels like, I don't know, it was the same thing with working on the final draw this in your style that I did, where it's kind of like, oh my gosh, this illustration is taking for freaking ever, and I'm so exhausted, and I feel like I haven't done nearly enough yet. Like, there's still so much to do, and then all of a sudden it's just done. And I'm like, okay, like, what else am I supposed to do with my life now? Like, what do you mean this is over? What? I don't know, it's so crazy. And then afterwards I was kind of like, well, do I like the end result and stuff? Because I want to like think more about whenever I finish pieces, and like taking notes on like, okay, this went well, or like this is something that I could work on better. Being more cognizant of creating is something that I feel like this year I've gotten more in touch with, because I've had more time to do so. And there's definitely things that I feel like I could have done better, or like there's things that I might have wanted to approach a different way. But for the most part, finishing it, there was a moment where I think I genuinely teared up, because like I hadn't felt like I created something so profound in such a long time. I think it was just like to really give my all and take time on an illustration and work on it like couple hours a day and just really keep at it to get a result that is an original concept and something that I'm generally overall kind of pleased with, especially compared to like any art that I've made recently. It was very meaningful, I guess. That's a good way to put it, because I was just like, wow, I really can like make these things if I just go for it and don't think too much and put my best foot forward. Yeah. And it was kind of a breakthrough moment, I think, because I've been trying to figure out a lot of different things. One of them just kind of being my overall identity as an artist in general, because that's just been something that I've been struggling with for the past couple of years, because art is not my main career, of course. It's kind of something that I've always kept on the side, and yet it means literally so much to me. Most of last year, I didn't really have time to think about art in any particular way that was like deeper than surface level of like, okay, well, I'll make videos, I'll work on like these little for fun projects and stuff like that. And initially that's kind of what I'm doing now, but again, I have so much more time, or I've had so much more time to like think about where I want to go, what kind of work I want to make, and things like that. And having those moments makes me feel like an actual artist. And it's silly because it's like, to be an artist, really, you kind of just have to like make art. Is it not that simple? I don't know. Just make art in a sincere way. It's really just like, you know, create things in a sincere way. But at the same time, in my brain, it's like the way I envision an artist, or at least the way I envision myself to be an artist, it's like doing much more than what I've done in the past. And I often feel like I have what a lot of people probably call imposter syndrome, but not even on the sense that I've made some profound thing where like I do these really cool things. It's like, no, I'm still like irrelevant, but it's kind of like calling myself an artist. It just feels like odd to me sometimes, or it's felt that way. I'm getting a little bit better at it now, but it kind of felt like, you know, when people actually inquired on that, I would like clam up and be like, I don't know, I just kind of like draw stuff, but it's not anything really important. You don't have to pay attention to my existence at all. I'm kind of just like here, don't mind me. And that's because even though this is something so precious to me, it's like I don't really know how to convey that on the outside, or rather, I don't feel qualified to convey that to other people on the outside, because I feel like the standard of an artist is something so much more than what I currently have going for me. I feel like I just have so much more to grow and learn about, and it's kind of funny because, again, I've been doing this for a majority of my life, so you're probably wondering, like, why is she being so hard on herself? But it's kind of just a reoccurring theme with me. I noticed that my ideals, like the things that I want to achieve, can very much start to get quite unrealistic. And I'm just naturally more like critical of myself than others, but that's like an artist thing in general. We always see things that we need to improve on as opposed to like other people. But with me, I'm kind of insane. So, like, I don't know. I kind of picture myself as like that one scene in Haikyuu where Kageyama is like watching Hinata for the first time and he's like, what have you been doing for the past 3 years of your life, or something like that. I think about that scene all the time because it's literally me to myself sometimes. Because I'm like, girl, we could have been doing so much more. And that's so mean. But it's not in the sense, like, in the same way he meant it. I don't think it was like to discourage myself, but it's more of like, you have the potential to do amazing things. We just need to get you in a position to where you're actually like doing them. And that is a really hard thing, to be honest, especially as someone who's like, now, I mean, I've graduated from college like almost 4 years ago, and I've been like juggling full-time work here and there. And another thing is, art is completely under my own jurisdiction. There's not really been many opportunities where I've been like taught or taken classes for art. There's a lot that I genuinely just don't really know. A lot of what I know is like self-taught and through intuition and perseverance. I feel like it's gotten harder as I get older, I guess. And then there's like that everlasting feeling of panic that I'm not doing enough within enough time, like I'm going too slow, or I'm progressing too slow, like I should have been doing so much more by now. But yeah, it's like with something like art that means so much to me, I just don't feel like I'm at, or I didn't feel like I'm at a level to really like talk to it about people. And in general, because it's so precious to me, I've kept my mouth shut about it more. And I'm mostly talking about IRL, because you're probably like, well, you have a whole like YouTube channel. You've been posting videos for like almost 5 years now, like what do you mean? But being in an online space feels different to me because, I don't know, it's a lot more appealing in the sense that I set up the platform for myself and I can attract the people that I know are more likely to like the things that I'm showing off. Because most of the settings IRL where art would come up as a discussion would probably be with like family or friends or like a professional setting, and I just feel like the people around me wouldn't really get it. And I don't want to introduce something that I know that someone isn't gonna really understand, because it's just gonna be an awkward experience, and people who are used to drawing throughout their lives probably know what I mean, where it's like you're sketching and people are asking you all these questions, or they ask for them to draw you or things like that, or they're kind of wondering like why you draw a certain way that you do. I don't know. And art, again, is very precious to me, so I want to protect the thing that I care about and be careful with who I share things with, so I just ended up keeping it more to myself a lot. So unless somebody asks about it directly and approaches me, I don't really say anything. And even then, like, that hasn't happened in a long time. Like, I think since maybe early college, there was like this girl that came up to me on campus and she's like, oh my gosh, are you drawing? You're like really good. And those moments always like, it's like a double-edged sword, because, or not double-edged sword, it's like a bittersweet moment, because on one hand I'm like incredibly cringing because I'm like, oh no, I knew my art was like not even that good back then. But on the other hand, I'm like, oh, they were so sweet to like encourage me and like root me on and things like that. Like, that meant so much to me at the time, because as someone who, again, was very shy about sharing any art related thing in real life, I also mean this on the personal level too, like even with my close friends and things like that, whether if they're online or IRL, like even though people will share stuff with me and show me what they're working on and stuff, I feel so excited to see it. And you would think by being creative, it would be natural for me to also share back and indulge in that, because that's a really fun and awesome thing. But the thought just literally doesn't even cross my mind, because it just feels like, it just feels irrelevant. It's like, why would I share that? You know, they don't need to see that. That's boring. Or like, it's just not, I feel like I'm intruding maybe. And yeah, I don't know. It's always been like that. I don't know. It's just kind of like a scary thing. And it's probably because I never know how people are gonna take it, to be honest. Like, art is, people can take art in so many different ways. And especially if they're not someone who deals with the type of practice of creating themselves, I feel like in general everybody just has some kind of opinion, and I've mostly strayed away from that, or I've been like spared from that because I haven't shared anything with people. But getting back into that space over the years, I'm kind of like still a little bit anxious, because even now, I mean, I don't really know what to think of my own art. I just kind of think of it more in like a way of me analyzing things and being like, okay, I want to work on this, and then I just work on the thing and that's it. And obviously I'm a lot more critical, so I don't always see like the brighter side of things. So whenever I have people being like, oh my gosh, your art is so amazing, or oh my gosh, you're so underrated, I'm always shook, because it almost like I feel bad, because a part of me is kind of like, is this a bot? Like, did a bot like show up in my comments to tell me this? And I'm so sorry if you're one of those people, because like, again, genuinely it means so much. But I guess that's where the whole imposter syndrome thing comes into play, because it's like, I am just kind of like, again, I feel like I have so much more to grow on. And I talked about that in my last video where I was like doing the whole OCs in my clothes. I was like, I realized that I've actually come quite far. So I have realized my growth now, but it's like at the same time, the road ahead of me is just so freaking vast. And it's just crazy. Like, it's like, it took me so long just to get to this point, and I'm not even like, you know, it's like, dang. And the other side of that too is just like knowing that there's also so many great creators out there like you, but then obviously in my eyes, I'm like, they're so much more interesting than me, they're so much like better than me skill-wise, or like composition-wise, I don't know, like just the way that they portray things, they have an actual theme, an actual sense of identity, and I don't really feel like I have that right now, you know. And as they say, comparison is the thief of joy, and I very much believe that. I don't think anything positive can come from like drilling yourself over like all the people that you aren't, because everybody is unique in their own special way. And even if that's something that's like said over and over again and like people think it's cheesy, there's genuine like merit behind that. I truly believe that. And also just everybody has different journeys. Everybody like grows at different paces, in different ways, and there's just really no point in playing that game. I understand it, and I think it's valid, and it's something that's going to be inevitable as an artist. We're always going to look at other people and be like, dang, I need to be on that level, or dang, I need to do that. And, you know, it's like, there's nothing wrong with being inspired, and there's nothing really wrong with feeling envy, because that's a very normal human emotion, but you shouldn't let it consume you. And especially as a creative, because again, there's just so many different perspectives that we all offer, and so many different styles, stories, and all of that, and that is very precious, and only we can individually tell our side or our perspective. So, and if nothing else, artists need each other. Like, we genuinely need each other. We need to support each other. We need to uplift each other. It's just so important. Celebrate each other's W's, you know? Hype each other up. We just finished something, no matter how small, even if you just did something for fun, be happy about it. Share it with each other. I think that's really great. And I'm saying all this as if I don't keep all my work to myself shyly, because I feel like I'm being annoying. And it's not always an easy pill to swallow. I mean, I suck at swallowing pills in general, but just the fact that like I have wanted to do Artist Alley or like Table, even at like the smallest, most irrelevant thing. I'm pretty sure it all started whenever I did go to my first convention and I saw like how Artist Alley actually was, and like it truly is like incredibly inspiring. And it's funny because it's not like you're seeing the actual reality of how the artists like have to get to that point, or how sales go, because it changes from convention to convention. You know, people are a lot more transparent now, and I appreciate that. But it's been something that I always felt like, oh damn, that would be like the coolest thing ever. I really need to like make merchandise and be able to like sell my art, because that's like, you know, that'd be a really beautiful thing. And I think I mentioned that in the video where I was like practicing making stickers and stuff, how I was like, you know, this would be like one of my biggest dreams as a creator, is to be able to share my work with people and create like this special bond. And also just being able to support yourself, you know, while doing something that you truly love and care about. So yeah, you have like this major goal, and then you're seeing like so many people like half your age. Well, that might be an exaggeration. No, might, yeah, I feel like you can't run a booth anywhere if you're just like 13 years old, right? But you might be able to run like an online shop or something if you have like your parents' permission that's like helping you run it. And I think that's where the salt in the wound rubs into me, because I never really had that kind of insight from anybody. Like, being able to commercialize your art is something that I've always been so anxious around, and I've held off around, and I never really had guidance on. And I feel like because I never took that leap, I've just been held back, and I'm just so irrelevant now. All of a sudden, I'm just like, oh, this is never gonna happen. I'm just like way too late to the game. Everybody's already good at art now. Everything's been done before, so what's the point? I don't have anything interesting or cool or new because somebody's always gonna do it better. Why is it taking me so long to get to these points when other people can do this within like just a couple of years, blah, blah, blah. And again, this is very toxic, detrimental mindsets. But I know where, like, it stems from, like, many different things, bad mental health probably being one of them. So yeah, you gotta mitigate the thoughts, and again, everybody has their own journey at their own pace. It wasn't until this year where I've had time to, like, take a step back, because I haven't been, like, working, but just being able to, like, look at things a little bit deeper and realize like where I want to go as an artist and stuff. Like, yes, Artist Alley and really just commercializing my art, or basically having a shop where I can like sell my work and interact with people and have like a really great, wonderful, magical time. On top of that, or even before that, really, most importantly, I want to establish myself more, because if anything has been said just now through all of this rambling, is that I want to reestablish who I am as an artist, like reestablish my identity, and I feel like the best way to do that is to continue making illustrations and drafting up concepts, working on projects without worrying so much about the idea of commercialization or like making sure that I'm promoting it online and sharing it to social media and all of that. I want to go back to the origin and stimulating that and why I enjoy art so much and the things that I want to create. That's really important to me, and I didn't realize that because I kept getting so caught up in other things that I felt like would lead me to being more quote-unquote successful. But really, like, you have to find yourself and understand yourself and what you want to make as a creative. But this is all stuff that I'm just kind of like, again, having as an epiphany recently and all of that. Another thing too that I've ran into is like that whole idea of like what modern art has been recently versus like the traditional art. And I think getting into Blue Period, which is like this manga or anime about artists, it's really good, by the way, highly recommend. I need to catch up on it. I think I left off on like chapter 58, I don't know, but it's great. Very real. But I felt like that's what made me think about this more often, because you see a lot of art school students and things like that, people working on a lot of stuff that revolves around the traditional art. And when I say that, I mean like the still lifes, the what is it, like the nude model type drawings, you know what I mean, like traditional art where you're like painting some fruit in a bowl or like a vase, a vase. Artwork that typically ends up being super famous throughout the years, like when you think of really famous artists like Van Gogh and all of that. Painting landscapes, painting portraits of like rich people, or even to connect it more to like modern times, but it's still traditional art, like the type of art you enter in like contests for like school or what is it, UIL competition? Is that what they, or is that only for band? I don't know. But like those traditional art competitions and things like that, that's what I have in mind whenever I say traditional art, versus a lot of the art that I see today, which I will definitely admit comes from my own like curated interests, but a lot of the art that I've seen or been exposed to much more in the past several years has been a lot of like fan art and like meme drawings and just kind of like merchandise, or even things like character design as well, like comics and stuff like that. Again, these are more tailored towards my interests, so it does make sense that I'm more exposed to that. But I guess my whole thing is that I almost forgot that there is this other side of art where you see kind of what I'm doing right now, where I'm just painting clouds in this really like somewhat realistic point of view, less whimsical and magic and somewhat cartoony anime themed like a lot of my other art. My point is, I enjoy both aspects of these things. I want to maintain both aspects of these things, but because I forgot about the whole traditional art side, actually not just because I kind of forgot it, it's more like I feel like that's the main art that most people think of whenever you mention that you like to draw or that you're an artist. And it's almost to a point to where I just feel a little bit discouraged, because I feel like if they just see like, oh, I did this more anime style drawing, it might not be as like interesting or cool or attractive to like older people maybe, as opposed to like kids where they're like, oh heck yeah, this is like so cute, I love this. And I mean, that's more of an audience difference, I guess. But to put it into context, I do remember I recently like went for this art type opportunity. It was like a studio type opportunity, and one of the things that I asked on my feedback for the application was like, is this even like, am I even shooting my shot for the right target right now, or should I like look for things more relevant for the art that I generally do? And they did more or less confirm that like, yeah, a lot of like the major artists that stand out are still the ones that are like traditional, doing like these really profound, like maybe oil painting portraits or things like that, I don't know. Like the really cool studio work that you see that's just really profound and amazing. And don't get me wrong, I do enjoy that style of art as well, but I would be lying if I said it didn't contribute to the whole artist imposter syndrome feeling, because I'm someone who enjoys making character designs and building my own OCs and thinking about world building. And even though I still have so much to grow on that aspect, I know a ton of artists that are incredibly skilled in what they do, and it's in that genre, and I just feel bad that like they would probably be looked down upon just because it's not the same traditionalistic style of art that we've had all in the past. But yeah, sometimes I wonder, like, is it okay that I enjoy things like character design? Is it okay to spend a lot of my time working on fan art whenever it's not my own creations? Is it okay that I just simply like digital art as opposed to working on really intense pieces of like using charcoal or watercolor? Do all of my pieces need to be this really in-depth, profound, like amazing, life-changing concept that really strikes everyone in the world? Or is it okay that I just kind of like create things and I know the story behind it, but other people might have to like get some context? I don't know. All these things just kind of like lead me into wondering about the identity of being an artist sometimes. And to try to close out this entire art section, because I feel like I've been rambling about it for so long, is I just feel like the answer is more or less to prioritize whatever makes me happy. Just being content with the things that I make, or trying to be content with the things that I make, like getting to a point where I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm glad to have drawn this, whether if it's like this really elaborate study of a landscape or if it's like just fan art of my favorite characters. Like, I want it to be something that I have a passion towards and that I enjoy and can bring my best out in. It's just an ongoing process, really. All of this is an ongoing process, and which I have my whole life for, which kind of helps me calm down a little bit, but then it also scares me a little bit because I'm like, well, it's not like we all know when we're gonna die or anything, so. But to segue into another topic, all of these struggles that I'm dealing with art are very much enhanced by the lovely concept and societal burden that is having a career. So, how's that job search going? No, but for reference to some of you who this might be your first video of me that you're watching, hi, first of all, but second, so as I stated earlier, art is not really my career. It's something that I keep preciously tucked in my pocket, my heart pocket, because I'm wearing a button down all the time, obviously. What am I saying? I both went to school and took my career in graphic design, and when I say I went to school for it, it was more like I went into school and kind of was like, okay, I know that I'm like in university now, but I don't really know what to take. And I don't know if I should go for art because, like, if that doesn't work out, that's gonna be, like, so embarrassing. I might have to perish from this earth. So I was like, okay, well, design is apparently a thing, so let me, like, look into that. I might be able to, like, low-key still be creative. That was the goal initially. So a lot of classes that I took in college were primarily based around design, also film as well, like, so a lot of digital work. And that's also what I ended up like taking jobs in ever since I graduated at the end of 2020. So far I've worked like 3 individual full-time jobs as a designer, and they've all been their own interesting adventures, but the last job that I worked, I had been working there for the entirety of 2023, so that was my first time working like for a full year somewhere. As like a full-time, typical 9-to-5 type job. Looking back, it still feels miraculous to begin with that I was able to like work somewhere after I graduated, because graduating during COVID was such a stressful time and mentally exhausting time, and it was still very much like the peak of the pandemic, so on terms of me finding a job, it was not like I'm just kind of jumping into a really great scenario. Things were kind of set up pretty poorly. Even the courses that I took in that final year, I mean, the quality was just diminishing greatly. It was very much like disheartening because, you know, you want to be sent off feeling confident and interested in the future, but instead I was like feeling very much tired, scared, but also just kind of done with everything. So yeah, in 2021, I think, so it took me about like 6 months to find my first job, but essentially it's like I've been kind of weaving in and out of job experiences, and hence why I was kind of like, oh, okay, nice, with my last job being like I stayed there for a whole year. To summarize that experience, it was helpful in the sense that I probably grew as a person. Like, I grew on handling a bunch of stuff, but it was very detrimental to my mental health, like very much so. And I just wasn't really seeing it as a place that I wanted to stay at. I didn't see it as a place that I could stay at, really. It didn't feel like an option if I wanted to like continue living decent life, to be honest. And so yeah, it's like those decisions that you kind of have to make for yourself and be like, okay, I know money is important, but like sometimes it's just not worth it. Like no matter what, it's just not worth it. And yeah, I ended up leaving, but the thing is it's still quite difficult, right? Because I figured, well, I have at least some experience. I have almost 2 years of experience now in this field. Hopefully it gets easier each time that I take a job on. I even went out of my way to spend like 6K to take a course that would get me like a really bomb ass portfolio. And don't get me wrong, the portfolio was kind of cool. But you know, that's been at the very beginning of the year. Not very beginning of the year, it's been since May. So it's been like a couple of months now, and that number is only growing. And all of this to say that, like, I just really feel for a lot of people, like, directly in my position, and also people that are, like, starting to be in my position, where it's like you might have just graduated and you've been on a job search for a while, and things just don't really feel that hopeful, because it truly is, like, a humbling, mind-altering experience. It's kind of harrowing almost. Not even almost, like it just straight up is. Because if it isn't like financially uncomfortable, depending on your situation of course, but for me personally, it's like even though I live with my family, there's still very much like things about that I just want things to change. I've mentioned in past videos throughout of me posting, like I've always wanted to be more on my own, more independent, and it just means so much to me more and more as time goes on. And last year I really was in a situation where I could have taken that, but because I understood the type of job that I was at, and because I understood that I wasn't happy, I didn't want to take that kind of leap, because if I moved out and then I decided that, like I ended up actually deciding, because I knew it was going to be inevitable for me to leave there, but if I was to be on a job search while I'm suddenly on my own again, you know, that's a completely different story. And that was before I spent the 6K, so I could only imagine, like, afterwards. There's just so many things that you have to, like, consider in life, you know, when you're, like, an adult. It's very exhausting. Decision fatigue is such a real thing, because it just feels like you never know if you're gonna make the right decision, and you're just hoping for the best. I will say stability is a very important thing to me, and unfortunately money is an extremely important thing to me. But it cannot make up for time, and that's kind of like the ebb and flow of what I've been feeling on terms of this job search era that I've been in, because like I am grateful for the amount of time that I've had. Like I said, without this time I wouldn't have been able to like think this much about art. I wouldn't have been able to make that illustration. If I did, it would have very much been at a much slower, more chaotic pace, because that's what I've noticed. Like all of 2023 I hardly drew as much as I normally do, or as much as I want to, for sure. But every now and then I get that fear where I'm just kind of like damn, should I have toughed it out? Like, should I have just kept persevering even though I didn't want to be there anyways? Because a job search, like I said, it's really hard. Right now, particularly for like entry-level people, and if you're in a even remotely creative field, it's just like, oh, good luck. I think it's so discouraging because it feels like misleading. I mean, it's not like I went to college solely to secure a good job. I felt like because I like learning, it was something that was a natural given for me. But I mean, the way that people advertise it, it almost seems like, oh, you'll for sure be able to find a job. Like, if you have a degree, like that's easy. Like, what do you mean? But in this day and age, there's so many people, especially in my age group, where it's like they just graduated, they're looking for a fresh start, they just want to like, you know, get in the industry and like work things out, learn and grow, and yet it's just like so much ghosting, so many filling out applications and nobody getting back to you, just absolute silence. And it really messes with your head, to be honest. Like, it really messes with your sense of self-worth. At least for me, I can say that because I know it's not true, but when you go through the same thing over and over again, you can't help but wonder, like, okay, what am I doing wrong? Like, there's no way, like, because I'm the kind of person where, like, there's not a lot of things that I'm quite humble. There's not a lot that I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna own this. But one thing that I can say is that my work ethic is, like, insane. Like, if there's something that I've been tasked to do, I will prioritize it like crazy, and it's almost to an unhealthy rate. Oftentimes it is unhealthy, but yeah, I've always felt like, you know, I'm gonna give my 100%. That said, that doesn't mean that, like, I definitely have learned my limits. I can't just sit somewhere and make myself feel very uncomfortable and depressed for years on end. I just don't want a life like that. And it's also not worth it either, because a lot of these companies will very easily replace you. So please don't strain yourselves. Another opportunity is always a possibility, but if you overwork yourself into the grave, there's no coming back from that. So yeah, employment is just a discouraging experience, and job searches have always been this way for me. And I want to say it's gotten better with how I manage applying for places while still letting myself try to rest and enjoy things that I normally wouldn't have time for. But even now, I just feel like that panic that's sinking in. And not to sound poetically emo, but it really does feel like a poison that is seeping through me. Because I've always struggled with the thought of, am I doing enough? So I'm often exhausting myself by trying to be productive and get things done because it ties into how I view my self-worth, which is quite dangerous to say the least. So if a job search isn't strainful from constantly putting yourself on a pedestal to be reviewed and judged and often cast aside or just ghosted, the result of not knowing if people are going to even respond to your efforts feels kind of like screaming for help in space, and you just get nothing back but the void. And if that wasn't horrific enough, it almost feels like the lower that my savings get from living off of them, the more that I feel like I'm slipping into quicksand. I thrive on being able to take care of myself and even helping other people if I can, so I just really hate when I don't have that strength and independence. And again, moving out has been like a huge goal for me for years because I know that it would greatly improve my quality of life. Not to mention just overall in a capitalist world, money speaks the loudest. You know, this world is giving very pay to play, and not everybody gets a fair start, but I digress. Basically, financial stability is like, it feels equivalent to my life force. I am someone who has struggled a lot with depression in my life, and the past several years, anxiety joined along, so they just love to have a little party up there all day, every day. So this whole situation that I've been in for like the past few months, it's made it feel like a giant panic attack that is going in slow motion. And I've been calm for most of it, but it's more like that eerie kind of calm that you feel in high stress situations. It's like when you get that fear and you feel like this cold feeling go through your body, but you feel hot at the same time, and you just know that you're at the end of the road where there's nowhere else to go. And it truly feels like my life is about to run out, and that I won't be able to keep going, and that I can't fight back anymore, and that I failed, and that I should just give up. And I just want to say that that's a very terrifying and sad feeling. It's something that I try to ignore and just keep pushing back so I don't have to deal with it, but every time it resurfaces, it just really is like getting hit by a truck. But that said, I just feel like for some reason I should just keep going, and looking at it rationally, of course, it's not over, you know, like it will more or less be okay. It's just another part of life that we may go through, but it is temporary, and again, it'll be okay. Some kind of way things just end up working out. That doesn't mean that it doesn't suck to go through. Like I said, it's kind of unbearable, but we'll make it some kind of way. Another thing is you just never know when things might change, because funnily enough, I think I might have found a little shining light in the dark recently. It's not a guarantee, and I'm not going to get my hopes up too much, but I don't know, I'm just going to choose to be hopeful and keep at things. I also want to extend those feelings of empathy and sympathy for others who are going through this, or something even slightly like this, because it happens to people of all ages and backgrounds, and I just hope that we all have some kind of support to know that, you know, we're deserving of a nice ending, and we've already made it so far. We just need to be more patient with ourselves, and similar to art, we just kind of have to trust the process. I also feel like my opinion of the typical career in general isn't like a high one based off of my experiences so far, just because work-life balance is such an issue, at least in the US, and then with how the economy is right now versus like how much people make paired with working for a place that has poor structure and toxic cultures and overworking practices, and yet this is a thing that we're supposed to dedicate a majority of our life to, you know? Like, this is a thing that defines who we are in society, apparently. And it's just so crazy looking at the whole thing, because I just feel like there's so much more to life, and that's something that I will always feel. But that's just kind of how I feel right now about job stuff right now. There's a lot that can be very daunting and discouraging, and again, you guys are valid for feeling that way, and I just want to send you my positive energies that some kind of way things will be alright. I know it's a really hard thing trying to figure out like what the right career is, or like what the right work life looks like for people, and how they can like do things that they care about in a decent environment that helps promote their growth while still being able to support themselves. And yeah, there's much to figure out, but I just wish all of us the best. Similar to what I said about art, I think just establishing a community where you guys can uplift each other and we can all be there for each other in these more exhausting times, and just realize that you really have to take things one day at a time and do the best with what you're given. Gosh, I can't believe it's been almost an hour and I've only covered like just talking about art and then job stuff. There's other things that I wanted to mention, but I might end up running out of time. First of all, thanks if you're even watching this far. I don't really expect this to blow up in any kind of way. I'm kind of hoping that this is just a little low-key, fun Easter egg for people that really need this type of energy right now, I guess. I wrote down mental health as a bullet point for things to talk about, but I'm not really sure what there is to mention, because like I've kind of already like hinted at things, not even hinted, I kind of have directly said some things. And I feel like overall, mentally, I'm doing alright. Yeah, no, I think I'm okay. Therapy would be nice, but therapy's expensive and I need insurance. So there's that. But I usually just kind of mitigate things by writing my feelings out. Because there's not often times that I share any of how I feel with people. In fact, me just doing this video in itself, I feel like I'm saying too much and it's kind of awkward. But I don't know, at the same time it's kind of fun, and I like when other people do these kinds of videos because they feel really healing. I can just be a little bit more raw and honest about how things are feeling, so I'm just like, hey man, if things have been shitty, things have been shitty. That's just kind of life, it seems. But then again, it's not always that bad, you know, some days things go great, and so it's just about, I guess, balance and mitigating stuff. There's some moments where I just end up being almost like numb or apathetic, and I have to like check in with myself and be like, hey, do you have something you feel like you need to like address with yourself? Because sometimes if I'm just like going through life, I just don't even think about it anymore. And that's even more dangerous when I'm working, because again, it's like I'm just waking up and clocking in. What do I have time to think about stuff? But I think the stockpiling all of my emotions, or my negative emotions in, can be dangerous. That's why I write them out or things like that. But it is kind of hard. I feel like in general I experience a lot of isolation, and I've been feeling that a lot lately, like just kind of like this aloneness. And it's like, I have friends, right? I have people that I talk to, but I don't really think I have a deeper connection with people. I feel like a lot of it is just surface level or like medium level, and I do have close friends and stuff, but I feel like it's kind of like the equivalent to small talk, where we're we're kind of just catching up, having simple, like, sweet conversations and all of that. There's no room for me to venture like deeper and be a little bit more honest, a little bit more vulnerable. Also, I just want to make a disclaimer in the case that any of my friends happen to watch this video, because it's not a disservice to them. Each of my friendships have their own specific connection, and I'm talking more on the broad sense of people that I've like talked with here and there throughout the past handful of years. Also, as time goes on, it's like different friendships change from here to there. And I know that everybody kind of has their own path, and sometimes your paths cross for a certain period of time, but they don't always stay as well. So I think I'm just looking for people that I get along with or connect to on a deeper level than I currently have right now. And I mostly mean that on like a general level, but I guess you could also apply it to like sharing feelings and sharing hardships with each other, because I feel like that's also another part of friendship. But for me, there's no one I feel like I can be like genuinely honest with. I feel like I'm just easier at listening to other people's struggles and trying to help them navigate through theirs, as opposed to like me sharing my own. And I think a major part of that is because, one, I hate feeling annoying. Like, I hate feeling like I'm intruding or like bothering somebody with like my emotions, like just my own experiences. The small times that I do decide to like vent, it's like a little test vent. I'm like, okay, well, let me just like slightly complain about something happening in my life, I guess. It's almost like it is brushed off a little bit, like it's kind of just like, oh, okay, and then we just kind of go back to a conversation, and there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but it does kind of make me feel like, should I have even brought that up, or should I just like kept that to myself? Because like I also wonder if I just don't really come off as someone who has big problems or like things to vent about. I don't know, there's something about the feeling of like being the kind of person that hardly really opens up about things. It makes it that much more fragile whenever I do say the slightest like realistic, honest thing. And so if someone just kind of like brushes it off, either because like they're too busy or they're just not in the headspace, which again are valid things, and I don't feel like, you know, I have friendships to like work as my therapist by any means, but again, it kind of just makes me want to like reclude even more and just kind of like keep that to myself. Because it's kind of like, well, it doesn't really matter to them as much, and that makes sense because I'm the one going through it. But yeah, I don't want to like just keep bringing up things that aren't really gonna matter. And another reason why this kind of has weight is because if my friends go through things, I try my best to be there for them as much as possible. I am very much like a ride or die type person. Like, I just feel like the people that I care about, I want to protect them, I want to support them, and I might not respond immediately, but even then it's because I need to find the right time. I like to think about the stuff that people are going through and really digest it and offer like, you know, whatever it is that they need. If they just need me to listen, or if they want any kind of advice or just an outsider's perspective, like, I like to be there for people. So it's kind of just like this unspoken dynamic on me wondering if that's going to be reciprocated. I definitely feel like it's a reoccurring theme for me, and there's been like just moments throughout my life of like with the people that I've been like close to, either family-wise or etc., where just like even basic talking, I'm not sure if people are actually listening or understanding me or what I'm saying, and so I just kind of feel like talking less and less, I guess. So despite all my yapping that I'm doing here today, that's also why I say like I don't really talk too much. One, as an introvert, but I just have to be like on a more comfortable level to be like yapping a ton. I have to feel like it's actually going to like make a difference, or like someone's actually interested in whatever I have to say, because I hate the feeling of wasting my breath. I'm like the person who I'll start like rambling on about something and I'll realize like the person doesn't care, but I can't like shut up, and so I just feel super bad, and then it's awkward, and then I'm just like, okay, well, I need to like not talk to anybody for like the next month. But yeah, honestly, this whole dilemma, I feel like maybe this is something that just comes with finding the right people that align with you and are working to establish a deeper connection, because friendships are something that you have to build on trust and solidarity and mutual compassion and the ability to work with each other's differences and understand each other. Also, I say this for my love life too, but it applies to friendships as well, of course. I just feel like having a close and meaningful connection is not something you can force. It's also just not really authentic to myself to like try and add pressure and hope to befriending someone. It's also why I feel like I naturally suck at networking because, I don't know, it just feels like a forced experience. And after the introduction phase where I first start talking with new people, I don't really know how to keep them engaged. In a perfect situation, right, it just kind of clicked naturally and there'd be no awkward pauses or one-worded dead-end responses or wondering if it's okay to message the person back after you already sent one message. You know, we would just have fun and share our interests. And building friendships takes time and even spending time with each other because a lot of friends I don't talk to like super frequently, and I don't mind this personally because I wouldn't say I'm the kind of person who needs to talk with others daily to feel close to them, and it's not bad to be that way. I do have friends that are like that, and I kind of like meet them in the middle where I talk with them a little bit more often than I do with other friends. But sometimes I wonder if only talking every now and then with people means that I can't connect with them on a deeper level. In general, I just don't reach out to people, even if I really want to befriend them, or even if we are friends and I'm worried about them, or I just want to check in with them since it's been a while. I'm very hesitant. And again, there's something to be unpacked about why I'm just so fearful of being intruding or annoying, because even if it were about rejection, I'm perfectly fine with if people tell me things bluntly. And actually I would prefer that as opposed to like having to play this guessing game on how someone feels, especially as someone who's really prone to overthinking, because I'd always prefer someone to just be straight up with me, even if they're being rude, because like at least I would know exactly how they feel. If I have to play like the guessing game, I just get stressed out and then I just think that they hate me because I'm really quick to think that people dislike me, to be honest. And it's okay if they do, it's just, again, if they say it up front, it's 10 times easier. I feel like a lot of people won't say how they feel directly, and I'm not the one for confrontation, to be honest, but I very much value it and I think it's almost necessary and essential. It's a very forward part of communication, and that's a very important aspect on terms of any kind of relationship. But again, I feel like people these days, I don't know, more and more I feel like, especially people younger than me, since I'm on the older edge of Gen Z, people tend to be like introverted and socially awkward and not really easy to work with on friendships and confrontation because like everybody has their walls up. No one likes being vulnerable, and I do get it. But at the same time, like somebody's gotta reach out. And it's funny because I didn't really realize this until one of my friends who's a lot more like confrontational and direct, she pointed out how there's a lot of people like me where we keep to ourselves and we don't really say everything that we're thinking, and then it can make things really complicated, especially because if you have to deal with another person that's like that, then who's gonna say anything? And I was like, you know what, that's actually very true. And so yeah, at that point I feel like I've been trying to practice much more to reach out to people and to be more honest, like despite my shyness, because it really is important. And the way that I talk to people whenever I'm interested in them and find them cool is like very exclaiming and warm, and it's because that's truly how I feel. I have this part of me that's very like a happy and sweet and excited demeanor, and it's weird because it's like I try to hide that away often, and it goes back to that whole vulnerability thing. If I'm happy and sweet and uplifting and want to be friends with people all the time, I don't know if people just kind of look down upon me or might want to take advantage of me for that. I don't know. Friendship it can be a very magical and special thing. And I think just having a community in general is something that I personally could benefit from, so I'm not so Miss Lone Wolf. I'm trying. In general, like I said, as an introvert, and I'm just naturally more shy, it takes a lot for me to like come out of my shell. I used to think that simply because I like the same things as another person, like we both have very similar interests, that it's just that easy, that we'll just end up being friends because it's like, oh, you like this too? Wow, we have a lot in common. It is very much not always that simple, unfortunately. You have to know the type of people that you get along with personality-wise, like your dynamics and the way that you treat each other. More than anything, I just want things to be like genuine. I feel like that's a really important factor. But at the same time, I feel like you can't manifest things that are special without putting yourself out there at least a little bit, right? So, you know, it's worth it. Gotta go for it. But I try to start in places where I feel like I'm likely to be successful. And I guess you could say YouTube is one way of doing that. I enjoy the idea of like building a community here, if nothing else, because while everything else is going to take time, this is also going to take time. But it's kind of nice because it's based around my platform and me just like making art. And I do feel like I definitely want to befriend more artists. There's not a lot of people that I know that create, and I want to like talk with them more and just kind of like establish that closer connection, because it's fun to like talk with other artists. But I'll try not to go into a loop here, because I can talk about friendships all day. There's a lot to the topic. The point is, I'm just not really buddied up with like a bestie or a group, and I'm kind of just in this giant pool waving to people from time to time. And it's hard to befriend in that case because everyone is already close friends with someone else, and everybody has their own like online groups. So that, paired with my fear of intruding, keeps me in like this permanent cycle of isolation. To briefly jump back to how I mentioned the new age of Gen Z and social interactions and befriending people, this is even more difficult online in my opinion, and you would think it'd be the opposite, but I feel like when you're in person and talking, it's harder to hide so much about yourself. Most of communication is like nonverbal, so things just kind of flow more organically and you have a higher chance of a natural, genuine connection. And again, we dislike vulnerability as humans, and this shows even more online, which is valid because there's a lot more dangerous energy online these days. And I'm going to drag this next part into the talk of fandoms and alike spaces, one because they go hand in hand with like the topic of making connections, but also because I feel like there's been quite the shift on how people interact online, and especially with fandoms or the content that they like. And I didn't want to start out on like a negative note, but I just feel like people are so quick these days to be mean or argue or just take things extremely personal when it's just about like a fictional character. And then that's where the whole phrase touch grass comes into play, but I know people want to like throw rocks at you when you whip out that phrase, but I do kind of feel like there's some cases where it definitely applies, because I feel like there's so many people out there that are like an inch away from doxing someone or sending death threats over something like mischaracterization of someone's favorite character, and I just never think it's that serious. It's ironic because all the intense energy is directed at the most trivial things, whereas it's also vice versa. But I don't think I've ever really had the problem of fighting people online and like going back and forth about someone's disagreement on character personalities or ship discourse. Like, why would I want to give someone my precious time, you know? And a part of me feels like this attitude or mentality around fandoms shifted drastically, partially because of stan culture, and it's kind of wild. Also, you might have noticed by now, I'm covering a lot of individual topics in this video that could be their own podcast type episode for me to expand on in the future, so just keep in mind that I'm gonna try to keep things vague and I won't add all my thoughts on everything, but as someone who has been an anime and gaming enthusiast for years, you can imagine the amount of fandoms that I've been in or experienced. And even music-wise, and actually that's a good example because whenever I got into BTS, it was kind of like a forest fire, like just burning strong with passion. And in 2020, it skyrocketed too because I just felt like that urge that probably many people felt to cling to a sense of excitement and things to look forward to. And as a K-pop fan, a lot of y'all know the content never stops. We just get so much food. So, but I have moments where like that passion fades in and out, mostly because of like being busy, hustling in my own life, and things changing, and then suddenly it's just like 10 times harder to keep up with all the releases and news. And this happens at some point for almost every hyperfixation, where like you're still interested, but sometimes you almost have to fight to bring back that same excitement that you had at the beginning. And this can happen because of being busy, or because of depression, or because you're like just simply changing in interest, and that's okay. Sometimes it feels like a fandom space is so intense in the passion that it feels like when you don't have the time or you don't feel that same really strong connection and it's going through one of those fade outs like I just talked about, you almost feel like you're not a part of the party anymore. It's almost kind of displacing, but for me, I truly thought that I was rekindling that passion for BTS, and then comes in the discussion of fandom drama, except in this case, it's not just some small silly discourse, it's like the issue of the corporation Hybe itself in context to Palestine. And I'm not going to cover the details because it's been going on for a while, but basically Hybe has been under heat for months about this issue, and it's just very discouraging to see how it's turned out so far. And I just want to quickly add, because this is very important, what Palestinians are going through in general, I feel like calling it a devastation is the biggest understatement that I could make. And I really wanted to believe that humanity would respond in a serious way to preserve a group of people from death and destruction, but here we are, almost a year later of extreme measures taken for ethnic cleansing, on top of this going on for years, where not only do the rich and the powerful not bat an eye at the situation, but fans of either corporations or popular people with problematic statements, they're just so quick to defend malicious behavior because they'd rather be comfortable keeping their interests than confront a major problem. And I'm just trying so hard to not let my negative emotions get to me and just completely give up hope in this world, because I have seen some really interesting takes. So yeah, I haven't kept up with a lot, but I'll just see how things play out. But in the meantime, I do want to respect the wishes that will help Palestinians and people of other countries who need allyship to the best of my abilities, because I never want to love a franchise or a person or group of people so much to where I will rewrite my own morals for them. Whoever made that saying that's if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything, they really cooked with that one. And it sucks because people associate being a real fan with being a sheep and not standing up for when you feel like something is just off. The media literacy and the lack of critical thinking is just completely out the window because people are so quick to complain about cancel culture and see things only in black and white. So many people feel like they're being called a bad person because the franchise that they like has problematic tendencies. And I noticed in general there's such an obsession these days almost with not wanting to be the bad guy so much. It's no, I'm not racist, oh my gosh, I'm not a groomer, or etc., that they leave no room for actually addressing the important mistakes whenever they're made, and how they can improve their actions and thoughts moving forward so that way they avoid that kind of discourse in the future. Because I do realize that people kind of go on purposeful witch hunts and try to blow things out of proportion, and it can be detrimental to people when they're trying to grow and prove that they're not the person that they used to be. And I feel like in most circumstances, it is important that we give people the space to show that and not dwell on things that they did decades ago. But I also feel like that can coexist with some people not forgiving them for what they did. Again, I am quickly covering really intense subjects, so I can't cover all the points that I would normally share, but I just feel like, is it so wrong to look at the media that we consume with social consciousness instead of ignorance for the sake of you enjoying it in peace? Because it might seem harmless to you to do that, but in some instances that is how other people get hurt. And it's not like I see myself as this major activist or something, and not that it'd be bad for me to be one, but we can't coexist or agree to disagree whenever our thoughts and feelings will bring genuine harm or exclusion or degradation, discrimination to other people. That's just not okay. But let's reel it back in some. Back to K-pop and BTS. All that said, I just really needed to take a step back from things because, again, despite me being a longtime fan and loving their music and their messages and their solo projects, not just them, but other groups under Hybe too that I really love, right now I can't stream the music and give money to a company with issues and just pretend like I'm not seeing all the problems that I am very clearly seeing. So it genuinely affects my relationship with the content, and honestly I can tell the energy in the fandom has shifted back and forth, and there's this giant split going on as well, but I don't know. I think it's a good thing to make sure that you're able to detach from a franchise in case you need to, and I very much understand that some people rely on their favorite content to keep them sane and keep them hopeful and even keep them alive, but I still just want to wish that people can learn to stand on their own a little more and refrain from making a group or franchise or whatever their very much identity. You gotta be careful going too deep into the sauce, you know? But hey, at the end of the day, it's everyone's own choice to make, and I would prefer everybody make their own choice on it. because it doesn't need to be a group project. I think that is another issue. It's not a group project. Please think for yourself. That is probably one of the most important things that I want to stress to other people. If you say your decision, if you say your opinion, make sure you yourself have actually thought about it, because that is really important. And it's more than okay to change your opinion, you know? We live and we learn and we grow. It is all a learning process. But with fandoms in general, it's likely best to find people that you get along with and just kind of vibe in your corner. And me and my friend were talking about this a lot recently, because we were talking about how our experiences with fandoms have been and how it's like drastically changed how we interact with a form of media. So yeah, sometimes you just find the people that you get along with and that's it. And maybe you might just need to vibe in the corner by yourself completely and just enjoy the content that way. Whatever you need to enjoy it without getting caught in all the crossfires and all of that, because again, it's up to each person to think for themselves and mindfully consume content. The hard part is when you create fan content and you have a space online with other people, aka parts of the fandom, interacting with it. And in a just world, right, there's a positive and chill reaction that everyone's content and we all have this great time together talking about the people or characters that we love, and I'm just gonna leave the subject at that because that's the pretty delusion that I am tempted to live in. But if it's not all sunshine and rainbows, then hey, why not take a break? And that is gonna be how I segue into the whole social media discussion, because honestly, sometimes just log out. I don't know, are you logging out right now? I'm about to log out. I think we should all just log out for a bit, you know? Memes aside though, I genuinely think it makes a difference to step away from social media platforms and not be online as much. It can feel more freeing and just offer peace of mind, and it's likely that it'll be a healthier route to take too. Finding things to substitute checking Twitter or Instagram or other platforms on your phone with can just be more healing than you realize. Not to mention, it could just offer a better use of time in general, because I'm sure many of us have experienced doom scrolling and it's not a fun time. Like, I want my hours back. And it's also no surprise for me, of all people, to feel this way and say this either, because I am not a social media girly, and it's so funny because why have I been trying to more or less pursue content creation as an artist here and there? The answer is similar to joining a fandom. I have this underlying hope and excitement that I will have a fun experience in sharing something that I like with others. But also similarly to that, unfortunately things don't always go that way, and for one moment where you look at the cute video of a baby fox playing in the snow or someone's really cool art, you have like 10 different issues of arguments or depressing world news. And again, it helps to curate your spaces, but stepping back is a valid option because sometimes the good just can't outweigh the bad. In general, I feel like right now, a lot of social media just isn't appealing to use. Like Twitter, because I'm not calling it that other stupid name, is like basically dead. And even whenever I open it, I'm just like, why am I here? Like, the times when I'm not on Twitter, I just feel so at peace. Because everything is just, oh gosh. It's like, if you need a reason to be upset or exhausted, you just open Twitter. There you go. And plus, again, like, the app is dying. The Muskrat has changed so many like valuable features, and it's just so irritating, and I just hate everything about it. It's just so bad. Instagram, the whole AI thing, you guess what? I'm already just not on board for that. I don't know, I guess it's like, supposedly you can opt out of it, but they make it like kind of difficult or something. In general, why would they even do that to begin with? Don't know. Money hungry scoundrels. It's just a mess. Those have been known to be like the top 2 social media networks, aside from obviously TikTok, and you would think for someone who like films YouTube videos, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm down for that. But like, I never really jumped on the TikTok train, like the hype train, for all these years that it's been blowing up. I tried a little bit, but I don't know, the atmosphere just feels so like, ugh. I just feel like I'm gonna get the wrong audience. I don't know. I need people like chill. I don't know if TikTok is chill. I don't know. People say like you just have to curate it, but like, I don't know. We'll see if I ever get around to it. But the AI thing is crazy. I mean, even Pinterest, I feel almost hesitant to use Pinterest, which I didn't think I'd ever have to say, but because they just casually allow so much AI images, it's like, I'm an artist looking for references. Do you think I want to see an AI image to use as a reference? No. That's why I ended up like just going to my own Discord, um, where I post like the sky photos for this little painting session because I needed actual photos of actual clouds and actual skies. I'm not thrilled with the fact that Pinterest allows so much air to be flooded in general, but I wish they at least had a filter for the people that don't want to see it. And if that's something that they have, or if that's something that they get in the future, somebody please let me know, because it really just makes all the difference in my opinion. One of the main reasons why earlier when I brought up feeling hesitant about posting my newest illustration online is because on Instagram at least, which I use often for like stories, and it's a lot of like silly stuff and slice of life moments, but I feel hesitant to post it because I don't want to deal with the whole AI situation. Even if I opt out, are they really going to respect that? I don't know. And I did open an account on Kara, but starting any of these new apps, it just feels like trying to eat dry, unseasoned chicken for a sustainable dinner. Like, go, girl, give me nothing. At most, I like Threads because for some reason the algorithm must be broken or distorted because I see all kinds of art from random artists every day, and it's amazing. And even my art sometimes gets seen by random people, and it's really like fun and cool time, except if I remember correctly, Threads is a part of Instagram, so I am back to the AI problem, right? I've said time and time again, here, there, and everywhere, that social media can be very much detrimental to artists, and I'm sure many of them have experienced that firsthand. Outside of typical issues like discourse, it's like this whole dumb game of trying to please the algorithm, or trying to have your own followers actually see your content, or leading you down the path of making content that you normally wouldn't care to make, and it's just this inauthenticity solely to get traction, and it just sucks because it's like one giant pitfall. It's a setup, and it feels like I have fallen for it time and time again. Like, I just keep getting more and more sidetracked and falling into it. Like, should I make TikToks? I should try streaming. I should post at this time of the day. I should use these hashtags. I should force out this many drawings in a week just to stay relevant, as if that's not the most unrealistic shit I've ever heard for a creative. No, maybe I shouldn't do any of that, and I should just focus back on what matters. And it really sucks. Like, it can really get to you to go unnoticed, whether if you're an artist or not, because you can't deny that a major point to using social media is to have people interact with you and vice versa. Not inauthentic engagement bait, like genuine connections and community building online like the World Wide Web is capable of doing. And I don't mean that I'm just talking from my perspective, I'm talking about like artists in general. Like, people create so much amazing work, and social media is such a like eye binge, if that makes sense. Like, you're just scrolling and looking at stuff like so quickly, and you just engage with it so quickly. But like, when you're in a museum, it's like you take your time, at least I do, and like you like stroll and look through each piece and like spend time thinking about it and like how they put it together and like maybe the meaning or the history, and like that's what all artists deserve, I feel like. Even if it's just a little bit, even if it's just as simple as like, oh, I really like the way that they did this, you know, like somebody has to make that connection. I think it'd be nice. I'd be damn well lying if I said I haven't felt discouraged whenever my art gets a handful of likes on something that I spent hours on, and many people feel that way. It's very normal. I've been making videos on here for like years, and I'm not even past the 1K mark. And I'm sure many people experience that thought of, why do I even try anymore? Like, truly, what is the point? Or am I really just that undeserving of someone saying that they like my art? But in my opinion, that's how the game beats you instead of you beating it, I guess. We should all know and understand that it's not true of your self-worth to equal people's likes and online engagement. I mean, do you know how fickle some people can be anyways? So yeah, sometimes it really might just be best to not play the game at all. And I do often wonder, especially with the recent realization that I should just enjoy making art for myself and learning and growing on this personal journey before anything else, should I continue promoting my other socials at the end of my videos? Like, is it worth upkeeping them? Maybe I should let go of the social media thing and move like some Japanese artists do, where they just don't post for a while and then they randomly show up with tons of iconic and majestic art just to disappear again into the fog. As someone who often longs to go off grid, that's kind of a vibe. Like, I get it, I understand, but in that case, why have I stuck with YouTube all this time then? Well, I just truly enjoy making these videos. I haven't seen insane growth from it, but I do just enjoy it, and of course I do, because otherwise I wouldn't be up at the crack of dawn right now recording this voiceover for a video that I'm highly expecting to flop. It's because I enjoy it that I can continue to share stuff, and also because I know it can take a long time to reach the people who would actually like my content. But in the moment that I do, right, I'm sure that it'll be a very cool and lovely and special thing, and for that I can keep going. And for myself, of course, but I do want to still prioritize enjoying art and making work that I genuinely care about on a personal level before I start stressing over posting consistencies and ratings. Like, I am not looking at that damn statistics dashboard until I can monetize my videos. That info is irrelevant. Cry to your dog. So yeah, I just want to say thank you guys again as we get towards the end of this. Thanks for sticking around all this time, both video-wise and if you just joined the constant watch party of my other content. I feel like another factor of social media is people not grasping numbers, and especially me, because I have a hard time processing anything in my brain. 500 people with their eyes on what I post and being willing to come back for more is insane. Most importantly, on the main subject that I love, which is art and making art, thanks so much for supporting what I do in any way. I just can't express it enough, because I don't really consider my existence to be something really strong or present to most people, but you guys have proved otherwise, and that's so crazy to me. On that same heartfelt note, on the ideas of leaving a legacy and all that, the reason why I'm painting these clouds is because, as you can tell, I really love the sky and celestial themes. The sky is something that it's always so different, but it's also so beautiful, and it doesn't feel like I should be able to look up and see something so healing for free. Time and time again, no matter how I feel, it just makes me feel so at ease, and I could turn into the wind and become a part of it. And I'm getting super poetic again, but basically, I'm not super decided on a religious stance. I was raised into kind of intense Christianity, but I myself am pretty agnostic and open-minded about things, so on terms of the afterlife conversation, if I could choose the ending, I would be in charge of painting the sky. And I don't mean I have to roll over and paint every sky. I mean, there's a whole universe out there, right? But I want to help paint it and convey the feelings that I have for its existence and share that with other people, so that maybe when people see a really beautiful sky and think of me even after I'm gone, I don't know, it's just really cool to be associated with something so great and meaningful to me, but we'll see. I mean, I'm still alive and I still have much to improve on my sky painting while I am alive, so. Also, that whole story is another tie into my little persona, the little cloud magical girl. That's kind of what she's inspired by as well. So yeah, there you go. You spent almost an hour and 30 minutes watching a video, and you finally got free lore. Who knows? I'll probably never mention it again. It's kind of like a little secret thought that I've had at the back of my head. But all of this said here and there, I'm so tired. This is the second day that I've been recording voiceovers for this video, and this is the second time that I've stayed up past 3 a.m, so it's now almost 5, and I'm like, what is life? I'm gonna try to get this video up for Saturday since I couldn't get it today on Friday, but it goes up whenever it goes up. But sorry, because I wish that we could have talked more about fun stuff, like what I've been watching lately or my recent music recommendations, but hey, there's always next time, so let me know if you guys would like more videos like this. Maybe not so deep heart-to-heart conversations all the time, but just longer videos of chatting and real-time footage. Again, this was a very self-indulgent Easter egg type video, but I'll continue to try out different things here and there, and as always, I am very thankful for your support. That's pretty much all I got on terms of life rambles, so again, thanks for listening. I don't know if this helped anybody or if this added a sense of clarity, or again, if it was just the energy someone needed out there, but love that for you, love that for us. But I'm going to bring it back to square one. We are going full circle because it's time to talk about the painting and all of that and wrap this up. It's been since 2020 since I first did a spread of painting clouds, and I remember whenever I talked about it with my therapist at the time, she was like, you really seem to light up whenever you talk about painting the clouds and the sky and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, it was very heavenly. Made me forget about life for a second. So again, I was quite ecstatic to revisit that, and at the end I'm going to show you like a comparison of the 2020 clouds that I did compared to these, and I definitely feel like even though I haven't painted often, like at all, you can still see like a form of improvement or shift in style, and I think that's really cool. Again, I don't really know how these clouds look on terms of like, oh, they're really good or not. I think I just had a really fun time with it, and I want to continue. Painting in any medium is really fun for me, and I thought it'd be a kind of cool thing to send to friends online and stuff, like send them a package of maybe like a little small canvas where I paint the sky on it. And yeah, I don't know. If any friends are interested in that, you can whisper in my ear and let me know. Or maybe one of you, even. Someday I could probably send it out to some of my subscribers, but for now, this is a really nice start. Real quick before I dip, if you guys have any recommendations for acrylic paint to use, feel free to let me know. Other than that, congratulations, we have reached the end. I can finally go to bed. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed your time here today, you can let me know by leaving a like. If you're interested to see more of my content, you can always check out my other videos and subscribe. For reference, if you're new, I am Rhea or Etheria, and I like making art and art-related content on my channel. I do try to post weekly, but if you would like more timely updates, you can probably just continue following me here, because at most I post on Instagram stories. But until next time, once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and wish you a nice rest of your day and or week. Take care.